That's good. She's just over a year.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, we might have to edit that out. That's not too slick. Or maybe we leave it in. This is raw. This is in cut. This is Randy, and this is Della. Excuse me, Della. And we're very happy that you chose to tune in with us. This is one of the very first times that we're doing these interviews here. Basically, what we want to do is kind of talk a little bit about going through major life changes, transitioning from what's familiar into something that isn't very familiar, and what it was like for people that are coming in here and sharing their stories. And the intention is that you will maybe see a little bit of yourself in the stories. So it might be the means of you moving forward into a transition, maybe continuing on with the transition, not giving up hope, hanging in there. Whatever it is, I don't know. This is really kind of weird. I'm used to doing this face to face in live time. So Della's really helping me get started with this because obviously she's going to be live and talking here. So anyway, as you noticed, I am kind of nervous and that's all news. So I think I'll kind of take it over to Della. Hi, Della. And what's your friend's name?
Piper is the puppy. I'm gonna actually reach for her bone, I think, here. But that's Piper puppy. She's just a year. She's mostly black lab with a little bit of mastiff in her. She doesn't have the size of a mastiff, but mostly black lab.
Oh, wow. Oh, such good companions. So anyway, yeah. So hi, Piper. Nice to meet you. So Della, if you could share with us a little bit about who you are. You're a coach, aren't you? And you've been helping people for a little while now. Is that right?
I'm a coach, author. Yeah, writer and coach are the two things that I go after. So who am I? Let's see. So I started out as a trained teacher, actually, of all things. And that goal was part of the powerlessness. There was a part of me that always wanted to teach, but I didn't know what or to whom. And so my journey has sort of led me down that path, right? So I started from being very powerless, very wanting to please others and making my life about pleasing other people. And so the choices that I made were based on what other people wanted to see me doing. So my parents, for example, wanted me to get a union job with benefits. How about a government union job with benefits? Well, there's no better way to do that in Canada than become a teacher. Talk about a government job with benefits, right? And so that was the framework for why I decided to be a teacher. I never really allowed myself to explore what being a teacher would mean for me. What I learned quickly was that teaching a captive audience of little kids in a classroom was not nearly as fulfilling as what I wanted or hoped it would be.
What did you want it to be?
I wanted it to be something bigger than me, bigger than what I could do for people, right? Teaching little kids, they don't even want to be in the room, most of them. They'd rather be off doing anything else, right? And so the first inclination that I had was that I wanted an audience that actually wanted to be in the room. I wanted to teach people that wanted to be there and that wanted to learn what I was offering. And so what that actually translated into was me teaching computers to adults, because teaching computers was safe, it was respected, people understood it, and also it was needed. But then there was the idea that people would actually want to learn it, that it wasn't so much of a captive audience. But what I ended up getting in my work was people that were in jobs where they needed to learn computer skills. So I was back to, it still wasn't because they wanted to, it was because they needed to maintain their lives and their employment.
Got it.
Which created more of the same, essentially. I was getting people who were stuck.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
So did that
stable because I had all my own stuff going on in the background, right? So I had all my own insecurity, all my own fear, all my own anxiety, all of my own crap. And so it wasn't stable. It didn't work.
Yeah. So that made things go from bad to worse.
It did. It made things go from bad to worse. So it created a crazy money story with all kinds of debt and lack and living hand to mouth, basically paycheck to paycheck, trying to figure out how to survive, right? And not really wanting to work for other people, but because of the story that was playing out around lack, hand to mouth, I had no choice. So then I started to feel trapped in my life.
Ooh, that's not good. Well, the Della I know today does not feel trapped in her life. So
no.
So
not trapped.
So this sounds like kind of a moment of clarity thing.
Oh yeah, I had a massive breakdown, but it was a complete and total meltdown 7 or so years ago. Complete meltdown. And so what happened in that meltdown was that the belief systems that I'd been holding on to, the old religion that I dropped in my 20s, all the things, they fell apart. Nothing made sense to me anymore. I finally was in so much pain, so stuck, so trapped that it all fell apart. Nothing made sense. I dropped all of it. So the trick was I had nothing to replace that with at that point. And during that meltdown, I literally sat down and Googled religions because I was looking for something that made sense.
And what did you find?
So I started with normal Western religion, all of the religions that we're used to, Christianity, right? I started there. And that was all, it was sort of, excuse my French here, same shit, different pile. It was all basically the same stuff in a different way. So it made no sense to me. I didn't get it. It just seemed crazy. So then I was like, okay, well, what about Eastern religion? Buddhism, Muslim. And it was Buddhism actually, because when you start to Google Buddhism, what you run into is a whole lot of spiritual beliefs, a whole lot of spiritual ideals. So that led me to the idea of spirituality, which was more freeing to me than an organized religion. Because it allowed me to sort of pick at the buffet of beliefs that are available to me in that broader spiritual sense and pick the things that I could deal with or work with and go from there. It allowed me to sort of build my own version of religion in a way that made sense to me.
Wonderful. But that probably didn't sit well with those around you. Is that right?
I had dropped religion about 20 years earlier. And so the people around me were used to me sort of not believing in anything. I still believed in God. I still believed in a kind of a higher power, but I didn't have any of the religious beliefs because I had dropped the Roman Catholicism that I had grown up with 20 years before.
Yeah. Well, then, yeah, that's about 180 degrees from the rigidity of
the Roman Catholic religion. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, my experience with religion wasn't a bad one, and I posted that in your group, the Unchurched. My religion wasn't a bad experience itself, but the beliefs just didn't make sense. It was this angry God in the sky that struck people down with lightning every time they did something wrong. And that didn't make sense to me. How does a God that creates a human that's imperfect suddenly get mad when they're not perfect?
Pretty illogical.
So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So it was that kind of thing. It stopped. I didn't get it anymore. And it was like, okay, it's not freeing me to be who I am. I have to be perfect. And what I kept seeing week to week was that people were breaking the thing they had been talking about before they even got to their car in the parking lot. It just made no sense.
No, it doesn't, except it's very emotional. Yeah. And emotions can override common sense.
Exactly. And there, the fear, the belief that something bad's going to happen to me if I don't believe in it, keeps them there.
Yes. Yes. Reward and punishment theology.
Yeah.
Well, it continues, at least from where I sit and stuff, because it has some level of effectiveness.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
society in general. Society is totally based on reward and punishment.
right. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, gosh, at least where I grew up and stuff, it started with the whole Santa Claus story. And
Yep.
don't mean to upset anybody who believes in God. I kind of
You
stuff.
believe in
But
Santa Claus.
we're kids.
Sorry.
Yeah, as we're kids, we're told if you're a good little boy or girl, Santa will give you something you want. Great.
Yes.
Yeah. And, at least in my household, if you're not, then you're going to get coal. Well, that sucks.
Uh-oh.
I don't want coal. I better be a good boy and girl. And hey, I guess I felt like I was falling short of the standards, but it was good enough. I got some toys and stuff.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
hooray. Guess I'm getting a C. I got a passing grade and stuff. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
whenever it was 7, 8 years old, when all of a sudden some kid in school told me that Santa Claus isn't real and stuff, it changed everything.
Yep.
And, not to go all around elaborating, but very similar, I think it is for a lot of people that are sharing with their religion, that again, just kind of the whole thing of like, you just shared. I mean, obviously, this type of awareness comes on a little later than 7 and 8 years old, but it's instilled upon us, so it doesn't seem so insane. Again, and as you said, other aspects at all. If again in the workplace, hey, I'm a good worker, I get promoted, I get raises, and all this kind of stuff. So again, it's very performance driven. But where for me it got really illogical was the fact that God loves me and the world unconditionally. But wait, there's conditions. Wait,
there's conditions.
well, I guess everything in this world has conditions. So why it's got, but the more I spent time studying it and such, that it was, oh, okay, I see what this is. And again, in my personal experience, it was very much like my parents wanting me to behave so they could have a peaceful holiday. So meaning it was a control issue thing. And again, very much this type of thing, even though I don't live underneath the roof of the church, they want to control Randy and Sue and Della and everyone else for whatever reason. Now, again, when I had my phase of this and stuff, for me, it validated my insecurities. If you agree with whatever I believe, I feel a little more confident, a little more sure about this type of stuff. And as I was starting to, again, realize, when I started pulling at the thread and it started unraveling, recognizing more, looking more at myself than necessarily the institution. Started going, if much like, if my parents lied to me about Santa Claus, what else have they lied to me? Mr. Pastor, if you've lied to me about this whole kind of thing that I have to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior or I burn in hell kind of stuff. Right. What other things have you lied to me about?
Right.
And
I prefer to see Santa Claus as more of an energy so that it's not necessarily a lie. It doesn't have to be a lie. That's the extreme pendulum shift. So we go from, well, Santa Claus caused me pain, so therefore he's a lie and we're going to go over here. But what if it's just an energy of giving? What if it's just an energy of love? Instead of being a problem, what if it's not that? Right. And what if the idea of Santa Claus doesn't have to be bad?
Right, which also to some degree is if we would substitute the word God here in religion and stuff, if it doesn't have to be anything other more than about, well, again, we talk about in the group unconditional love, and it's really, I mean, in all frankness and stuff, it's meant to be more of a, I don't know how to say, ultimate goal to strive for. I don't think that's realistic to get, but if I'm aiming for a home run and I get a base hit, that's a good thing, kind of stuff. And it's, so again, unconditional love, just for the record and such, just means that my motives are not for a specific outcome or result. Okay. If it's conditional, again, if I'm being nice to you to be nice back to me, that's conditional. Okay.
That's conditional.
You know, I bought you lunch. Now you owe me a lunch, or on and
Yeah.
on. Kind of, it can just go
I help you move,
from
and you
there.
got to help me move. Yeah,
Yeah, and yeah,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. Moving was a good one for me. Yes, because I have a truck, so a
Yep.
lot of people. But yeah, and I had a scorecard of everybody who owed me, and those that.
Yep.
And but of course, it wasn't like it was a legal transaction. It was all in my head. So when you didn't meet my criteria, there was regrets and there was resentments and on type of stuff. And so yeah, saying this, it doesn't mean it's not a bad thing that we do things for other people, even with an expectation result of it, but at least communicate it and be honest and open, authentic about it. I'm doing this for this reason. And if it's agreeable, it's acceptable for both parties. Excellent. It's the proverbial win-win situation. But especially when it comes into something that, you know, when you want to use a big L or a little L, but love and again, the spirit, the energy of this gratitude and this giving and such. Least
So when
again,
you do things genuinely, you no longer need the expectation of somebody
right,
doing something back to
right.
you. So if you just stop yourself long enough to say, what do I want to do here? Not what do I think I need to do, but what do I want to do? And then make that choice instead of what you think the other person wants to hear, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better. And it removes the expectations.
Absolutely. So again, so removing attachments and aversions and such. And of course, it has to begin with ourselves.
Yes, always. It starts with us.
But I had a real hard time with the self-love thing because I was.
It feels selfish at the beginning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels selfish at the beginning because we get taught to do things for other people constantly, over and over and over and over again. And so when you start doing things for yourself, people perceive it as selfishness.
Yes.
But it's not. You're just filling your own cup. You're taking care of yourself first. And then with that overflow, then you have the ability to give back. And you actually do more giving than you would have the other way because you have more room within yourself to do that.
Funny how that works. But usually we have to feel enough pain to finally say no more.
That's it. How much pain do you need to be in before you do something different? That's the question.
Yeah. So how much pain did you have to be to get out of teaching computers?
A heck of a lot. So I had to be completely and totally broken. And I realize, I understand that spiritual ideal says nobody's really broken. We all come in whole and complete. We're all fine. And I get that. But inside of me, the way I felt in that moment was broken. A million tiny little pieces all over the place with no understanding of where to even begin to put it back together. So one of the first concepts I picked up in spirituality was the idea of presence, focusing on now instead of past and future. Past makes you miserable, future scares you to death. So what's in the present? What can I focus on right now? And at the beginning, that focus was really just on surviving. It really was just on managing in the moment, right? So one of the first teachers I found was Eckhart Tolle because he talked about presence. So I read The Power of Now. And it was life-changing for me because I began to recognize that I was so focused on what was going to happen next and it scared me so much that I wasn't able to focus on what was actually going on around me. The realization that I'm sitting in this chair, I'm here, and I'm absolutely fine and there's nothing going on. So why am I letting fear of something that's going to happen in 10 minutes bother me now? And people say, well, why? Well, we have to plan. Well, sure, but don't put yourself there. Don't project yourself into the future. When you plan to go out to dinner and you make that reservation, you don't project yourself into it. You make the reservation, you forget about it, and you walk away. Okay, so make the plan and move on. It's the projecting yourself into it that causes the fear. So if you project yourself there, then you start to worry about whether or not they'll have the reservation, what the food will be like, will the service be good? Then you go down that rabbit hole. Now you're stuck. Now there's fear. So the more present you can stay, even while you're planning the future, the better off you're going to feel.
Yes.
The past gets you in trouble the other way because now you're in blame, shame, guilt, victimization. Now you do regret. Now you punish yourself for what you weren't able to do back there. Well, guess what? You can't go backwards. There's no time machine. So what are you going to do now that's different? You can't change it, but you can live differently from where you are. Your power is where you are, not where you were and not where you're going. So how do you change it from where you are?
That is the
Without making
$64
yourself feel like you
million
need to do
question,
something.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Stop making yourself feel like you need to be different than you are. You are who you are. That's okay. Be there. Allow that to be okay. And then change what you have control over as you become aware of it. There is nothing wrong with learning, even as an adult. There is nothing wrong with learning. We are not here to know everything.
Right. That seems to be the wisest people I've experienced. You know, they accept it, they acknowledge it, they allow it. This, hey, don't know it all, don't need to know it all, don't
Don't
need to
need to know it all.
figure it out. Again, everything I need is with me at this very moment.
Exactly. The need to know it all is the form of control, because that's how we try to control the future, by knowing it all now.
Well, for myself, I felt a lot safer if I had everything figured out.
Oh yeah, for sure, right?
Yeah.
For sure. So I consider the unknown like this big black hole void, because the brain doesn't have any context for that. So it doesn't know what the future is going to be. We don't know. So it's a big void. So imagine you have a shelf in your home or a closet or even an extra room because the kids moved out. What do you do with that space? What do you put in there? Do you consciously redecorate it, turn it into a useful space? Or does it just become the junk room, the junk drawer, the junk shelf? Do you just toss whatever you find in there? The brain, if you're not paying attention, is going to toss all of your past crap into that future, because that's what it does. That's the only thing it knows. So you have to consciously decide what to put into your future, not just allow your mind to make it up.
Yes. Well, and again, for myself, because again, the future is unknown, I'm taking past experiences and projecting them into the future. So,
but are they good experiences or bad experiences?
and well,
If they're
so,
bad, they're keeping you in pain. If they're good, then you're okay, because that provides you hope.
well, again, speaking for Randy and such, again, this was self-preservation mode. So key on to the dangers, the problems and stuff.
Yep.
Avoid problems. Okay.
Yep.
This goofy thing is that once I could be in now and see it coming up or recognize that it was with me. At first, it was a felt sensation, but again, it was always seeking the problems because it always wants to be safe. So again, everything projecting into the future. Well, what if this happens? What if that? Again, creating some kind of scheme to keep Randy safe. Well, of course,
Oh, yeah.
one, it's all imagined, and two, is there really anything, at least what I would consider safe? Who's to say we could be talking right now and some atomic bomb? Hey, Russia right now seems to be on the warpath.
Yeah.
Maybe all of a sudden, again, atomic bomb goes off there.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
So
maybe,
where is safety?
yeah,
Safety is in here then.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. All
Safety is inside, not outside.
could be
If you're looking out here, you're not going to find it. World's nuts. It's in here. So
Exactly.
you got to be okay with it yourself first.
That's exactly it is first. So eventually, again, coming to the point that I could control nothing external, that the only thing I had control of was my attention. And if I'm going to pay attention to what is happening really right now, there was this weird thing. I mean, it was almost just kind of like as you're using the analogy of that empty room and stuff, it was almost just like I just let all that stuff go out onto the street and was trash, took it away. And with that nothingness, what in its natural, just the natural order of things, the vacuum, I guess, of the universe and life and stuff, there was this thing called peace that came in there. And I have this hypothesis that peace is the one constant thing. It's always, we don't make peace. Yeah, we get rid of all that other stuff that's distracting. And then the next thing you know, once all those distractions are gone, whoa, what's I had all this junk on top of this. This has got a nice hardwood floor. I like
Yeah,
this. And this is
yeah,
this is way better than I could have ever asked for or imagined. This is great. Well, again, yeah, this inner peace kind of thing that, yeah,
yeah,
I don't need to be smart and strong and successful. All
yeah.
these things I strive for all my life. If I can just be, that's enough. But it took a
Stop collecting
long
junk.
time, a lot of pressure, a lot of, excuse me, a lot of pain, a lot of pressure
Yeah,
for me, and finally just to say that I can't do this anymore.
yeah,
So the
yeah.
paradox of strength and surrender, again,
Yep.
logical mind, egoic mind, doesn't make any sense. How's there
Nope.
strength and surrender? And still to some way, I do my best to explain it, but it's really kind of a non-verbal, energetic kind of thing. It's just
Hmm. Hmm.
happens. and
Hmm.
and that's, I guess, so the thing is, we can read the books, and yeah, The Power of Now is just one of the best books I've ever read. But come on, that's information.
Yeah.
And
You have to
it's
embody it or
experiential.
figure out how to live from it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Until it becomes experience, it doesn't really
Yeah.
become knowledge.
Exactly.
And then we
Exactly.
stress test this knowledge and see that it works in an
It
infinite amount
actually
of
works.
different ways, and eventually it just kind of becomes what I would refer to as wisdom. Again, these great wisdom teachers and stuff. They became aware of it. They applied it to their lives. They've recognized it works for them and for others. And hey, this works. I'm convinced of what I'm convinced of, is what my friend Dave says. But yeah, we can't transfer that wisdom, that conviction, to another person. As much as I would love to put it in little bottles with a fancy label on it and stuff
Me
and stock
too.
all the stores with it.
Me too.
And then, of course, I'd probably be the richest guy on earth.
Yeah. I
Again,
get it.
just the way it works, and we've got to do it for ourselves.
You do it for yourself
It's
and then
not
you pass it to somebody else and you hope that they can pick it up and take it with them.
right, right. But
But the
I read,
reality is we can't fix each other. We can't make each other do anything. Everybody has to figure it out in their own time and in their own
yeah,
space.
yeah.
Yeah.
And perhaps
Yeah.
the most loving thing that you can do is allow somebody to go through that. Not,
Yes. We prevent each other from going down our own paths all the time. We
yeah,
do it constantly.
yeah.
We think we're helping each other by preventing people from taking what we think are wrong turns, but we're not. If they are allowed to have that experience, they're going to learn far more than they will from you stopping them.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of coming back to your story, I know a little bit about it, that there was some resistance from your parents about you making
Oh, there's
this life
always
decision.
resistance from my parents.
When-
That's a normal day. That's just Tuesday. there's nothing new there.
yeah. Well,
But it's learning to manage that and not get sucked into it and not feel like my whole life revolves around pleasing them or anybody else for that matter.
that's it. That's it. Going from a lifetime again where it's performance based. If I'm a
It
good boy, I'm a
is
good
totally.
girl, not just to my parents, but again to everyone around there. If I please them and stuff, everything goes smoothly. Not a problem.
Yes.
Everybody's happy. Oh, except for me. I'm
Except for
miserable
me.
inside.
And ultimately, you know what? They aren't happy either. They're still the miserable selves, basically, right? So what I did or didn't do had no effect on their happiness.
Right. Right. Well, if they were like me, they thought, again, if they could control and keep everything in order the way they envision it in their minds is the right way to do things, again, they feel a little
Mhm.
safer, feel a little
Mhm.
safer, a little bit of that peace. But again, that's all external. It's all an illusion and stuff. It's just a
Mhm.
story
Totally.
that, again, we get taught either directly or indirectly. Again, our politicians, our pastors and stuff, our parents.
Mhm.
Hey, there's a lot of peas there. All of that coming together in a way we're like, well, that's
Mhm.
just the way things are and stuff.
That's
And we
just the way
keep,
it
because
is.
this is the status quo and stuff.
Mhm.
And it's not until we challenge it, kind of like
Mhm.
the kid who pulls on Santa's beard and goes, "You're not really Santa."
But challenging it takes courage. And that's part that doesn't get acknowledged enough because they watch us shift but they're afraid still. And what's in the background there is the courage to do it
Yes.
because you got to be able to, as the saying goes, feel the fear and do it anyway. So you have to manage the fear and find the courage.
Yeah.
And then when you shift it, if you take 5 minutes and you look around and go, guess what? I'm still alive. The world didn't blow up. I'm okay. Then you recognize that you can do it and you're all right. And then you can do it again because you start being aware that, hey, guess what? I'm still here.
Hmm.
I can handle what happens next. I can handle the outcome. Even if the outcome isn't what I want, I can still handle it. I'm stronger than I think I am.
Yes. One of my favorite sayings is, "You're better than your past."
Always.
Yeah.
You are. Because you're
Mhm.
not the version of you that did all that stuff you still regret back there. You're not that anymore. If you were put in that identical scenario today, you would handle it very differently. Give yourself credit for that.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So there was a huge, huge thing, and I don't want to make this about me, but yeah, it was basically understanding that I was beating myself up for learning lessons.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
the pivot point in this story. I'll tell it sometime in more than it's a monologue and such. But
I
it's like,
don't do
hey,
it
why
all the
are
time.
you? Get my friend Alan going. Why are you beating yourself up for learning a lesson?
For learning.
And I
Yeah.
got, as much as I like to talk, I got real quiet, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's insanity
Yeah.
and such. So that was what helped me be. That was the beginning. It's taken a long, long time to be a little more compassionate, a little more kind, a little more patient with Randy as I'm going through this,
Yeah.
because new is scary. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
Absolutely. Familiar pain is better than new pain because we know it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So again, it's safe. It's a little safer, a little secure. It's my pain and such. So and again,
And
I
I know how to
and
handle it because I've been in it for 30 years.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah. And then we get into worthiness and all that kind of stuff as well too, which is, again, as much as I could read and it really took people demonstrating that I was worthy of being in the, this might sound a little goofy, but being in their presence. They were patient, they were kind, they were people I respected and admired.
Yeah.
And just by being present with me and stuff, I was not less than them.
No, you're not. You're not.
And
We're all equals around here. There is no better than and less than.
well, 15 years ago, I would have argued you again, or maybe even I would have probably complied and nodded my head because I you know, didn't want to get into controversy and rock the boat. But yeah, a lot of times I felt either less than or better than other people. And it took being present, being now, okay, not about
Mhm.
anything other than what was going on, like this conversation, and these people demonstrating to me, not teaching me, just being themselves. That it gave me, basically gave me permission to be myself. And when I was myself,
Yes.
and I wasn't given a lump of coal, um, I wasn't fired. I was, again, it wasn't a controversy. It wasn't, a confrontation and such.
But then recognize what's happening when other people hand you coal because you're being yourself. It's because you're triggering their pain and they're just not dealing with that. So they're throwing it back at you. So
Mhm.
the better you are at recognizing that that's happening, that people are just throwing their pain at you, the more you can realize that you're okay being you and that that's their stuff.
Yep. Hmm. Yep. Yep. For agreement stuff, take nothing personally.
Exactly. Because none of it's yours anyway.
Mhm.
You don't go on a walk on the street and pick up all the garbage. Well, maybe you do, but you don't take it home and keep it. You put it in the garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Do that in your life. Stop taking on everybody else's junk. Stop walking through life picking up stuff. And if you're going to pick up stuff, then remember to throw it out when you're done with it because you don't need it. It's clutter.
Yep.
It's not helping you.
Yep. Mm-mm. Well, that was a savior syndrome.
Yeah.
If I could save you, I could prove to myself and the world and stuff that I was a good boy and all.
Yeah.
Plus,
No.
also, if I'm thinking more about fixing you, I don't have to think about fixing me, kind of stuff.
I used to do that. That was me. Totally. I don't have to deal with me if I focus on you. Yes, because I didn't want to deal with my own emotions, my own thoughts. I didn't want to have an opinion. I was scared to breathe because I was afraid of what other people were thinking.
Back to courage. Back to
Yes.
courage. You know.
Yes.
So.
So then it evolved, right? Business evolved because I actually came out as a tarot reader and a psychic, right? Because I
Yeah.
had intuition and I started using tarot because I read a blog actually that said that tarot would help with intuition if you read the tarot intuitively. That was my process. I started there. That actually challenged the idea that I had to fit in the box. Because as
Mm.
a general rule in society, psychic mediums and tarot readers aren't well accepted. It's considered woo-woo and weird. So it challenged my idea of the box, of how I needed to be in the world. In order to keep moving forward, I had to be okay with not fitting in. That allowed me to continue to evolve the message. And I started talking about energy, planetary energy, astrology, stuff like that. And then it continued to evolve because it became this concept of empowerment and being okay within ourselves. And it's only over a period of 3, 4, 5 years that I've actually started to have a solid message and a way of delivering that message.
Yeah.
But that takes a long time. And I've done all of this publicly. I've shared every step of it the whole way through, which takes a little bit of guts. And not everybody's going to want to do that. But the idea was that if I'm going through it, somebody else probably is too. And so if it helps, then I'll share it.
Well, yeah, not everybody is going through the challenges that you and I mean, you know, but this is pretty much the human condition. Again,
Yeah.
we want to be good people. We want to be acceptable because, hey,
Yeah.
we are from our survival mechanism. We have to belong to a family, a tribe, even though that may not be as obvious as it was 20,000 years ago or whenever, again, people were hunters and gatherers and stuff. And if I didn't bring anything back to the tribe, we all went hungry kind of stuff. Yeah, these are the things that, again, they're taught to us directly and indirectly by again, our parents and our peers and such. But again, as much as societies evolve, these human traits and stuff are still with us. And yeah, it's just being, I don't know, being made aware that that stuff doesn't work for us anymore, that if finally we just start considering maybe there's another way. There's another, again, and just doing it more and more and stuff. And again, that's really kind of what this unchurched thing is to help people, transition safely through this major life event. Something's changed. They probably don't like it. Do everything they can to stop it or go in some other way that they would prefer. Anything but being in the moment and allowing the thoughts and feelings to be processed and such. Again, they project into the future the fears and stuff. And and it's not until we get to the point that you just shared, which is ultimately, again, what I just heard and what you've shared with us, Della, is being yourself. Now you've just taken it where it's to a larger audience.
Yeah.
Finding the courage to be you is really,
and uncovering that, because I didn't know who I was because of all the pain.
right.
I've been so busy making so many decisions based on what other people wanted that I had no idea who I was or what I actually wanted.
Yep. Sure. Absolutely. I relate to that 100%. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why the evolution has continued, is because as I figure out who I am and what I'm doing and how that's going to look, everything around me continues to change.
Yeah, somewhere along the line, somebody talked about it's public speaking is like the second greatest fear of but underneath that, it's not speaking publicly, it's being embarrassed. But underneath being embarrassed, it's the greatest fear is that the world discovers that I'm not perfect. At least the story in my head of what a perfect Randy looks like. And if you find out that I am really broken and stuff, again, I hate myself. So, if you saw the real me, you surely hate me too.
Well,
again,
Yeah.
just stories in our heads, basically lies that somehow I concluded, which again, it was this perception that I had a story about looking at this person and that person and this situation and how my life was differing from it, that how far I was from perfect meant, well, again, so I tried my hardest. And I think a lot, again, looking at people, having conversations that are open, authentic, and stuff like this. This is a real common crisis, I think. I think underneath a lot of people, they're doing everything they can to tell themselves in the world and stuff that they're not feeling less than, that they're,
Well, we keep trying to fit in the box, right? So we have this group of people around us, and we want to keep them because we're afraid if we don't, we're not going to have anybody. So we're afraid of that idea of being alone, right? Of losing the tribe. And what we don't see and what we don't allow ourselves to see is that if you shift and you make the space, new people are going to come in that are going to match the new version of you and are going to match who you are. But you don't allow that. You keep everybody that you know near you, but that keeps you stuck because you can't be your authentic self with people that can't accept that because they haven't done it themselves yet.
yeah, absolutely. No, and again, it's just looking back when I was living inauthentically, gossiping, just again, all that type of stuff. Those that were attracted to me were also, again, people living inauthentically, again, spying lies and hatred, intolerance, and such. So I just concluded everybody feels the same way, thinks the same way. This is just the way the world is. And it's been the greatest gift. I mean, I never imagined, when I set the intention a couple of years ago, it's about 2.5 years ago when I started that Attitude of Gratitude group. It was just in between gigs. I just was keeping myself busy because I knew if I wasn't busy, I'd find something to do and it may not be beneficial. So again, try to create something. And when you get your next gig, you'll just set this aside. Well, I was having fun and people were appreciating it. But I set the intention to experience and express inspiration so others may do the same in their own unique way. And doggone it. If anybody's ever in a group and there's some people to listen to it and stuff, it kind of unfolded. And so I kept it up. But I really didn't, again, that whole Attitude of Gratitude, again, it was named after that because, I was grateful because what AA had done for me, and it started this path of self-discovery. A lot of these paradigms may not have been learned in recovery, but the journey did start with my efforts of trying to stay sober. But with Unchurch, again, as I said before, it's much more intentional about what the purpose of the group and how to help people and such. And again, as you just touched on, when we're around people that allow us to see ourselves a little bit better, okay? That again, we are not just acceptable, we're actually pretty magnificent. Not in a grandiose way. I mean, it's just kind of the magnificence of every darn human. Every human, if we look at what the 5 senses are, the nervous system, all this kind of stuff that, involuntary actions like heartbeats and lungs expanding and contracting, how we interact with nature, blowing out carbon dioxide, taking in oxygen, all this stuff that's so easy not to consider and stuff. It is pretty miraculous and wonderful. It's not in a celebrity type of way. It just, the reality is pretty awesome, pretty magnificent. If I can let that garbage kind of drift away, the energetic residue of hurts and hangups and stuff, again, that with the help of others, there'll be some people be interviewing that have helped me with this as well, but you've helped me as well. I've read some of your books, blog posts. We've had conversations before. I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think this can be done alone. The problem, the condition that we're in, I'll call it a problem again, this thing where we've been inauthentic and such, was created in community, and the solution lies in community. If we have other people around us that can tell us that, I'll speak for myself. Randy, no, you're not as big of a piece of shit as you think you are. And then there was friends who told me, no, you're not as wonderful and magnificent as you think you are. They helped me get right size and stuff. So I could be, able to observe myself in a much more neutral. And it wasn't all good, it wasn't all bad. Again, we're humans. We have assets, we have liabilities. We fall short of our ideals and stuff, but that doesn't mean that we give up trying.
Exactly.
You know, that's
So it's
what
this concept of reflection, right? So people will reflect back to you.
Yep.
And it's what you do with that reflection. Your reality is always reflecting back to you. And it's what you pick up and what you don't, and what you do with what you pick up.
Yep.
And the more you can pay attention to your reality and then understand what it's trying to show you, the quicker you're going to be able to heal or feel better or be okay or whatever the goal is. But for as long as you just say reality sucks or the people around me are awful, and you refuse to see what is trying to be shown to you, not that you're awful, because that's a victimized way of looking at it. This is actually trying to show me something helpful, but I'm not seeing that right now.
Yeah.
So the coal is actually a diamond.
Yes.
So if I can look at the coal and say, this is actually a diamond, so what's it trying to teach me? That's helpful to me. But if I look at the coal and just say, well, this means I suck, then it's not helping me move forward.
Yep.
I'm just a victim of my own reality at that point.
Yep.
But I don't have to be. That's a choice because it's based on what I'm paying attention to and how I'm choosing to see what's going on around me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But kind of getting at it, it's like you don't need to have a large community of people. In fact, typically
One person.
one person. So again, people like yourself and such. So if someone would like to reach out and talk to you a little bit one-on-one, what's going on, how would people get a hold of you?
Well, you know this. I'm all over Facebook. I'm all over Facebook. DellaWren.com is my website. So Della, DELLA, and Wren, WREN, all one word, .com. You can find me there. That is the best place to find me. Facebook, Instagram. Those are my two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And in unchurch as well too. She contributes.
And in unchurch and in my own group, the Empowered
Yeah, what's
Healing
the
Journey.
name of your group for those that don't know?
The Empowered Healing Journey is the name of my group. So it's this idea that we can be okay in our realities when we disconnect from all the pain and stop living from it through patterns, habits, beliefs, thoughts, ideas. When we learn all of those patterns and we stop living from the pain, is what we do is we create all those coping mechanisms, and then we keep them. We're no longer in pain. We're no longer in the situations that require those coping mechanisms, but we hang on to them. People pleasing, that kind of stuff. We hang on to them. Not good enough, unworthiness, right? We create all that. So when we do that, we disconnect from it. Now we can feel better.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Learn how to feel better by disconnecting from patterns and habits that you created while you were in pain.
So yeah, if that kind of seems like a stretch for someone who's listening to this right now, I only bring that up because it would have when I started.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, that's a stretch, but there is a way there.
Right. And I was going to say, so Dilla's really good at meeting people where they're at.
Oh yeah.
So know that you might be in a situation like she was when she was teaching computers, and just kind of like, I don't know what the future has in store, but I know I can't continue on this path.
I know I can't.
If that's all you know right now, that's okay.
That's
in fact,
enough.
actually, that's huge, and it's very courageous. And again,
Yes.
if that's something that's going on with you right now, there's very few people I could recommend more highly than Della. She can help you. She can, but you won't know for sure until you talk with her. So reach out.
Yeah, come chat with me. I'm a wide open book. Come talk to me. I'm happy to chat with anybody that wants to.
Yeah, yes, she is. All right. So again, thanks for being with us. And until then, take care. Have peace. Be good.